Hi Kira, I just wanted to give you feedback on week 5. I've got all your folio pages up here. I've spent some time looking over them really thoroughly, and overall I'm really pleased with what you've done here, the way you've experimented with methods, media and materials, and the way in which you're going into great detail about the imagery and how it suits the name of your cafe. I've also been really pleased with how thoroughly you've been looking at typography. So what we'll do is I'll just go through each of your folio pages and specify things that you could improve or things that are working really well. So the first page I've opened up here, now they're not in any particular order, it just happens to be the way that I've condensed all the files that you sent me. This is really lovely using different media. I can see it's paint, maybe it's watercolour paint. I don't know if you did it on a wet surface to get that kind of really watery effect, whether the paper was wet and then you added water paint on top. So just make sure that you label on this page what media you've used and what method you've tried. So the media is watercolour or gouache. Describe how you've gotten the consistency of the paint, how watery you've made it, and also talk about the method, which the method is painting, and also talk about the material. So let us know what some of these paper swatches are, whether it's heavy paper, light paper, textured paper, tissue paper. Just let us know some of those things. Really pleased with what you've done here. I like the interplay between the figure and the ground. So what you've done is you've reversed the typical way we see figure and ground. So you've actually made the figure element here a negative shape, and you've used a lot of white space, and you've made the colour the ground element. So in effect what it does is it really accentuates the shape of the crown, and I like the way you've explored different backgrounds, and there's some beautiful tones and textures coming through with the paint. I think your annotations are great. What's really wonderful is you keep referring to the royal colours, and I know that you're talking about the client's needs here. So the client has asked you to create an appropriate logo to represent Queen Bean, so you are actually letting us know that you understand that you've got to create appropriate shapes, the shape of the crown, and appropriate royal colours. So purple is a classic royal colour, so is gold, royal blue as well. So I think you've done a really nice job here and satisfied the requirements of the brief. It's great that you've played around with different crown styles, and I guess when you pull it all together at the refinement stage, you'll make a decision about which of these crown styles is most suitable. This was really good, this page. I really like that you've done the stenciling technique and you've used splatter paint here. This is obviously the stencil, but this is what can happen in the design process when obviously you weren't intending to use this as an image, but this actual stencil itself looks really effective, as do these prints that you've made from the stencil. Other things you might want to experiment with, if you want to do more experimentation in the design development, is you could go around the outline of these shapes just to pull them together, or even try an outline that kind of doesn't quite match up to the shape. You might see a lot of logos where that happens, where line and the fill shape behind don't quite match up, just to create a bit of an interesting effect. So there's some really good exploration happening here. I really like, Kira, that you've used different materials here, and you've certainly satisfied the creative aspect of using different materials. I think it's wonderful to use real gems and sequins and all that type of thing. The only thing I'd caution you against is remember that you're designing a logo. I'm assuming this is for the logo, or maybe it's for the menu. I'm not quite sure, so maybe a heading would be good. But if it is for a logo, this is probably just a bit too detailed, and some of these sort of finer details won't really show up when the logo is produced at a really small scale. So you've just got to keep those things in mind. But it's a really good evidence of exploration and experimentation, and look, it will look really great on your menu, which I'm assuming that's what you've done it for. It's great that you've tried different markers and pencils, and that you're labelling what you're using. These two effects have worked really well, and it's good that you've tried charcoal. Obviously, you know, that creates a bit of a moody ambience, and I don't know whether that's all entirely appropriate for your particular design brief, but I think it's great that you've experimented with it. Then moving on to your typography, I was really pleased with the way that you've contrasted different typefaces, and this is a really appropriate typeface. It's extremely decorative, and you know, you keep using the word aristocratic. Is that what you've written here? I'm not sure. You might just need to check the spelling there. So I think, you know, it's a really suitable typeface. I would like to see perhaps a bit more exploration of the typeface, even just changing the colour, maybe, you know, an outline behind it, maybe white text on you know, a darker coloured background. But actually, in saying that, when we scroll down further, I can see you've sort of tried it here. I think this is really effective, this one, you know, to punctuate and separate out the name Queen and Bean. You know, this is all just personal. Obviously, Viscom is very subjective, but it might be good to try even a plainer typeface here, just for the word Bean. You know, explore with the rectangle behind the word Queen, just to, you know, experiment and try out different things. You know, you've really been incredibly exploratory here. This is quite effective, and I like that you've thought about how you can integrate your logo, your symbol rather, into your logo. You just got to be careful about the tones you've picked, because this sort of sage green and this blue are very similar in tone, so the legibility of the typeface is kind of impaired a little bit. So to improve the legibility, you might want to make the type really, really a lot bigger than it is here, double it, and then maybe even add a white or a yellow outline just to make it really pop. This is quite, you know, I quite like this as a simple solution just with the letter Q. I think that works well. You know, you could put a silhouette of the crown behind it, explore with just the letter B, so it's Q and B. Again, I can't remember what your design brief said, whether you were asked by your client to have the full name Queen Bean or whether you can have the initials. So just go back and make sure that you look at the design brief, and if you've specified something in the design brief, just make sure you're always adhering to it. Then moving on to the menu, I don't think your exploration of the menu has been quite as strong as it has been for this presentation, your logo. So some things you might want to do here, perhaps it's because you're still at the idea generation stage, is we've got to see some text at the very minimum, just to see how text integrates with these really decorative kind of borders that you've done. I think the concept here is very strong. You know, it'd be lovely to see some material. If you could actually fold some red velvet into this shape, take a photo of it, then use a photographic treatment on that menu, that would be really good. So at the moment you've just done sort of pen on paper, so you haven't really pushed the ideas for this one yet. So again, you need some text, and think about the hierarchy of text. Think about the size of the headings, you know, dinner, and then all of your dinner items, drinks, and how you're going to place them. Think about the overall composition and how you'll use the design principles to rearrange that composition. Think about cropping. Think about the alignment and using a grid. Think about scale and how you'll make certain words pop out that are written here. I really like the concept, the Queen of Hearts. This is very strong, and I think it's a very stylised design, which is quite different from the treatment of the logo. So if you do end up pursuing this Queen of Hearts concept and you use this very stylised effect, just try to make sure that it keeps or it's consistent with the design of your logo, so that you know, they look like they match, like they're part of the same corporate identity for this cafe. So yeah, I think just a bit more work on these menu designs with the text. Then moving on, you've got your text for obviously your experimentation of the text that's going to go on the menu. Some really decorative fonts here. You've used sort of classic medieval type styles. Just be aware of the legibility. I think this type style will be absolutely fine for headings because there's not going to be too much text, but I wouldn't use it for all of the menu items like, you know, bolognese sauce or spaghetti or all of the headings underneath the subheadings. So just use this for a heading and keep your subheading text quite simple because legibility is pretty important. And then obviously this is looking at different materials, so just give a little explanation and annotate those and explain what your thinking was there. And then we've moved on to a shield, which is, you know, a really good strong shape that can be used for the symbol. This is fantastic. I really like the subtlety here. I'm not sure how you did that. Did you scan it and then incorporate the image over the top? So please give a pretty detailed explanation with your annotations on how you achieve some of these effects. But this is a very different sort of style. You're looking for a more muted overall effect, so I think that could be quite interesting. So, and then here, I'll just move it up a bit. You've actually got a pretty detailed, oh dear. Sorry about that. I maximised the screen. So here you've actually got a fairly detailed idea of what the menu could be. And look, Kira, this is fine, but I'll be honest, you know, this type of style has been, you know, done before lots of times in menus. So, you know, think about ways you can be just that little bit different, be a little bit more individual and imaginative. You know, do something different with the scroll if you can. I don't know, could you, rather than having it as a solid colour, could you actually just do outline only? Maybe put it within a rectangle or a crown shape, incorporate something with it, just so that it's not so generic looking. That would be good. And just to mention on the typeface, you know, really try and pick a typeface that suits your particular need. And again, pick a decorative typeface for the headings because that will work well, you know, that medieval style. But I would suggest that, you know, your actual food items are done in a really simple way. I wouldn't even pick a cursive font because I just think this particular type style is, I don't know, it might be a bit dated. So, you know, you want to show that it's a contemporary cafe, I think. So you might want to look at other options there for the text. But, you know, this is all subjective. These are just my opinions. Whatever you choose, just try to make sure that you justify it thoroughly with your annotations and that you keep saying, you know, this will suit my audience because of the research you've collected. So have a look back at your research, look at the type styles that you've identified when you did your research and see if you're on par with the type styles that you identified there. If you've got any questions, just give us a buzz or we can have a chat over the phone. So overall, really, really good, Kira. You're kind of in that sort of high mid to low high range. So I just think with a bit more work, a bit more annotation, you could definitely be in the high range for criteria 4 and 5. And I really look forward to seeing where you take it from here.